Hello, doll friends. This is Michael Canadas with the Grovian Doll Museum and Carmel Doll Shop. And I am joined today here with the elusive David Robinson.
So elusive.
We don't see you.
I practically live here.
Yes, but we don't see you very often on
I'm elusive to the camera, maybe,
okay.
but otherwise I'm around.
Yeah. But I should point out, I will give him praise that he actually keeps the whole engine running, keeps everyone fed and organized. So that is his big contribution to the virtual world that we do. So today we're going to, because it's the night before Christmas, and we are going to show you some doll houses, but I think you've been so busy that you haven't even really seen this house.
I don't think I have. I know this particular house, the Mexican mansion, which also known as Casa Paloma, which originated in Puebla, Mexico. I've seen its outside in all of its glory, but I have not seen the individual rooms. I know many of them are decorated. We were fortunate to have good friends come and spend a couple of days. Kristen Bowen and Joanne Donovan, club members of ours, they came down and spent a couple of days decorating just dolls' houses. So,
and it took them a solid day just to do the outside.
Yeah, I know they did this house. One of our staff members, Eddie Ortega, did another house, which you'll see later, and he did a beautiful job with that. But anyway, yeah, this is Casa Paloma, and I'll stand out of the way so you can take a nice look at it. It is decked out.
And I think what I love what they did is, if you can see that we have the original flower garden, and they actually very carefully added to that, and you wouldn't see it if you're just looking straight ahead. And we are ready for a party. And I do love all of this little tiny holly. And then they did all the trees, and I don't have the greatest eyesight, so the first thing I did is I went and got some red paint, which they complained about it quite a bit, and then eventually I put my glasses on and we realized it was glass paint. So it was a little
not
bit of
the easiest formula to work with.
Great with glass.
But they painted all the bases of the trees.
To get a nice contrast.
I don't know what color they were before. I think they were white.
White. Mm-hmm.
But you know, they painted all of the red bases of these little trees with this very odd paint. So
yeah.
Anyway,
and then they made all the decorations.
Yeah,
so
it is.
It is 12 o'clock, and I think that is an important time in the Mexican culture on Christmas Eve. So I think that we should go in and have a look.
So what we're going to do, this house is not the most easily accessed house. All of these pieces come off individually. When this was on display at Angel's Attic Museum in Santa Monica, its previous home, they had this large box, shallow box on wheels that fit underneath, and they laid all the fronts in that, and then you could pull it out and look at the fronts. It was always open.
Yes.
But here we leave it closed mostly, and we only open it for special occasions like Christmas Eve. So what we're going to do is take the front off and let you take a look at the decorations inside.
So we will wrangle that, and we'll be right back. Well, I think, David, the first thing that we should talk about is, in this particular house, we are blessed to have our own religious institution and our private priest. And this is a rich, as our friends would say, this is a rich house. And a rich house would have their own chapel, and their patron saint is Our Lady of Guadalupe. So the decorations would be fairly Spartan in a chapel. It would be just greens and a little bit of red.
And that is the case here.
Yes.
Just a little bit of
Now,
green.
the one thing that we are remiss is that we should have poinsettias in this house, which are a native plant of Mexico. But to get the minis is hard to find.
Something to look for.
Something to look for, so that we can do something different next year. So then we're going to zip down from the chapel into the dining room. So we are ready for the midnight meal. And I did not know this, and maybe you don't know this either, David, but
Yes.
in Mexico, they have a tradition of the Secret Santa. And you would get your Secret Santa gift before midnight. And the festivities are on the 24th. So you would get your Secret Santa before midnight, and after midnight, Santa would come.
So are the Niños up
Yes,
late
they are.
at night?
Yes, they
Okay.
are.
That's a full day.
So
for the
that's
Niños.
it's a full day. And so we are ready and we are set.
That looks like quite the feast
yes.
is about to happen.
And then food, of course, is important. And in Casa Paloma, those that have followed Casa Paloma, the lady of the house and the main boss is Donna Petra. And she is the cook and she runs the whole house. So she is going to make a traditional meal of tamales. My focus group has told me that each region has their own specialty for Christmas. So it can be different.
Christmas Eve is,
Christmas Eve.
and then Christmas Day is there
And that
also
would be a whole
more
different
feasting?
Yeah, more feasting, but Christmas Eve would be very particular.
I'd be very happy in Mexico
Yes,
over Christmas.
yes. And
Lots of feasting.
I forget what is that name of that drink that is
Atole?
Atole. And that would be, it's like
Yes.
their version of eggnog, but it's made with corn.
Corn.
Yeah.
And you can flavor it with cinnamon and other things, I understand.
So this is what's happening in the kitchen, and they're making tamales,
And fresh tortillas
And-
with their tortilla press.
which is really, it's right there. And lots of actually very unusual items. And I can see we might
Oh,
have,
isn't there a thing? Oh, the hot chocolate, the mix, the whisk for the hot chocolates in the
where's,
bowl.
oh
on the
yeah,
table
right there. And that's a rare little
We
item.
served that here, actually. when we
Maybe
had our-
not rare in Mexico, but in the America.
Yeah, we
it's
served that here when we had our fiesta for Casa Paloma's arrival, the hot chocolate.
So we're going to go upstairs into the grand salon, and they are ready for Santa.
No, what do they say Santa in
They,
Mexico?
yes.
Santa?
Well,
Santa Claus
yeah,
or Saint Nick, or is it? We'll have to clarify.
yes, we'll have to. But they know him as Santa Claus. Now, I also learned something that I didn't realize is that kiddies in Mexico get to double dip.
Oh yeah.
Because on January 6th, the three kings deliver the gifts. And those are the gifts basically from baby Jesus, and in honor of baby Jesus.
Well, then when we go to Mexico, we'll have to stay through the 6th.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Load up
So
with
we've
those.
got
That tree is beautiful.
Yes,
Didn't they do a great job? And
they
look at the
did.
scale of, They actually cut up things, garland and things to make those. I mean, Joanne and JC, or Kristen. Her name is Kristen, but we know her as JC around here. That's her nickname.
And they made those.
They made up these little ornaments out of just pieces and parts, and they had a good time. They
and
really
they wrapped
did. They really got into
packages,
it.
wrapped packages, and found little toys.
That's a very luxurious room to
So
start. And then
I'm-
when you add the tree, it's just glittering.
I'm in my scenario here. I'm saying that this is the Christmas Eve tree, but down in the music room, which it has nothing underneath it, I think that the little tree here, I think that that's the January 6th tree. So the three kings haven't come to deliver the goodies.
That's a colorful tree, isn't that?
Yeah, just a little
Very
simple.
festive.
But the biggins is upstairs. And the guests have not all arrived, so they'll be, I think we're having 8 for dinner. So
That music room is special.
and we haven't over decorated the bedrooms and the bedroom, and because that would be that wouldn't be done. It would be all in
public
in
rooms.
public rooms.
And the parrots are here. ready for
And they'll get
special
something.
snacks on the big day.
They'll get something.
I remember one's name is Hector, but I don't
Hector.
remember
This
the
is
other.
Hector.
Hector.
That's Hector.
Okay, and the other one could be Paco.
Paco and Hector.
Well,
You have not even looked at this.
No, I
have you?
have not. I have not seen the fronts open. When they were here, I mean, they were keeping busy, and I was staying out of their way. I mean, this place is it's amazing the amount of decoration that has gone in, and we had a holiday party here for our club, and they were amazed. And my claim to fame was, I didn't do a thing, not one. So not out here, but as Michael says, I do try to be a support system.
So I think the next stop, let's go to Germany.
Okay, sounds good.
Right. We're going to go to Germany.
Great.
Come on along with us.
Auf Wiedersehen.
So we've left Mexico, and now we are in Germany, and we are in the toy-making capital of the world. And you and I have been to Germany many, many times, and we've actually seen houses and
Absolutely.
Coburg and Neustadt and Sonnenberg and Wolterhausen.
Yes, where the full-size houses are like dolls' houses.
Exactly. So, and a lot of the houses, instead of being big fancy houses for royalty, which they have the castles, but these were for the captains of industry, the people that made the money. So what are we looking at, Jason?
This is a Moritz Gottschalk house, dollhouse. You can see in the original sales catalog for Moritz Gottschalk, it was produced for sale, or at least the catalog of 1892, this was available. I can't imagine how many of these would have been made. I mean, it's amazing, the detail. And this is our only Gottschalk dollhouse in our collection.
Is it? How much?
It's the only one in our collection. We have other things like a school and things, but when you have this, you don't really need another one. I mean,
Well,
this to me is...
I don't know about that.
Oh, I think this is pretty much the pinnacle of Gottschalk houses.
I know, but you know I love really, really big dollhouses and really, really small ones. So we could have
All right,
little...
you can have one more.
Okay, okay.
But it has to be very
So
small.
in this catalog, which is from 1892,
Yes.
is this the first house that they...
I think...
First page?
I think there are other things. There is a public house type. This looks like a public building, actually. This is the first item in this particular catalog.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
Typical wood construction, brick paper. Typically, this era, you'll find this reddish brick paper and then the yellow brick paper below. This house has been restored, and we know who restored it. Very, very talented person who was a name in the dollhouse industry for decades. And but we obtained this house from Angel's Attic Museum in Santa Monica when they ceased to exist. And we were fortunate, I believe, to get such a great example.
Well, and there may not be many of these in the world.
Well, that's my point. I mean,
Yeah.
how many of this model were made? We'll
because
never know.
there's a lot to go wrong.
There
with
is,
it.
there is, and it has cast plaster ornaments applied, all these, and it's just a jewel. And this house was decorated largely by, I mentioned earlier, one of our members of our team here, Eddie. He loves to play,
Well,
like a lot of.
Well,
our
the
people
ladies
do.
were very, very intensely decorating, and he asked me a few times, could he do something? So
They had their hands full with
Yeah.
that Mexican house.
Yeah, so I assigned him this house.
And he did a great job. Look, even Santa's arriving.
Yes.
But this would have been just something to get this on Christmas morning.
Which
Can you
would have
imagine?
been under a tree.
Yeah,
It would have
or
been-
near, next to
near,
a tree.
mhm.
But it's a fun house because it does open in the front, and then these little pieces all come off as well. 1, 2, 3, and that's how you access the attic. We won't take them off this time. We'll just open the lower
Well,
part.
it's not decorated up there.
Well, it's not decorated, and also there's wiring here, so you can't really put them aside. This house was wired for electricity. Not originally, of course, it wouldn't have been. but it was wired for electricity when it was on display in Santa Monica. So we won't open the top, but it is finished inside. You can see the floor paper and there's wallpaper inside, but this you won't see. You'll see the rest.
Well, and I have put quite a bit of work into the house, which you're going inside, because you'll be surprised.
Yeah,
because there were things in the house that Mickey was
Mickey Haynes is the
was
person
a seller,
who restored
and
them.
she basically decorated the house for
She
resale.
sold it furnished to the Angel's Attic.
And some of the things just were not.
Well, we would, everybody
up-
does things differently.
Yeah,
We would
they
have.
were not up to.
So you edited it a little bit.
But she did put some very good things in it.
Yeah.
So we are going to open it up and
And
let you have a look.
I'm not sure we've shared this one inside before. Maybe.
Well, it may not have been able to see it real well because we've moved it to this new location.
And it also got illuminated.
So I think that the logical place to start with a tour of this house is in the heart of the home, which is the kitchen. And we have pretty much a state-of-the-art kitchen in Germany in 1892. We've got a beautiful stove with some wonderful copper pieces, which Germany is known for their beautiful accoutrement for the kitchen.
But I have a feeling this stove would have come with like originally tin cookware. So, but this gentleman is French trained, so he brought his own copper
Yeah, this is an
cookware.
upgrade.
Yeah, he brought his own
Yeah.
copper cookware
Yeah.
from France when he emigrated.
Yes, and I think that we've got a form of, it looks like a meatloaf, which is, meatloaf in America comes originally from Germany, and that looks like that's some kind of, maybe it's made with veal or a delicacy, and then a wonderful swan tureen for the table. And these look like little potatoes. And then we've got some, maybe they're beets or some kind of a plum. It's a very nice kitchen, and we've got a good-looking chef who's quite tall and a nice little housemaid or kitchen maid. And we didn't really do much. The kitchen was very well done, I think.
It has some the rack on the far left corner has some wonderful extra tiny blue onion utensils in stoneware.
And that's just those are so wonderful to have in any
What's
size.
lovely, remember we used to go to, in Germany, we would see that in human size.
Yes,
the
but
mallets
little.
and all the oh gosh, we should have collected that then, but we didn't.
But this house belonged to a captain of industry, so you've got to have the latest technology, which is the telephone. And I think it's hysterical because it's about the size of the dolls, maybe just a little bit smaller. Remember when play and children's imagination, the scale isn't as important as it is in
the
contemporary.
1/12 in scale is not, I wouldn't say a new thing, but it's something that new artists, miniaturists are more concerned with.
Yes.
Than these toy type items
Because there
that
were many
we're used
scales.
to dealing with. Yes, even in this realm of the dollhouse world, there are many scales, the antique things, but the 1/12, 1/24, that's more of a artist tool.
And it's a great
sizes of
scale.
things.
But
Yeah, this is like a standard scale, I would say, standard for almost one inch to the foot for an antique.
So we should move to the dining room, and we are set for the festivities. And I have taken out of our stash a special wild boar head that's all wrapped in a pastry puff and all kinds of embellishments to make a fantastic presentation. And interesting, the table is actually a rock and grinder table, which is a company that made dollhouse furniture out of metal, and they did a faux grain to
The
it.
dining room is outfitted with rock and granite, including the sideboard in the back, and
The corner
on the
service.
right there's a corner etagere, and on the left, is that a rock and granite
Yes,
piece
it is.
too?
Mhm.
Yeah, so these would be heirloom pieces for the house. These date probably 30 years older than the house itself. So these pieces most likely belong to the couple who live in the house now, or to the parents of the couple.
And if I'm doing I'm decorating a house, I want to know I can put older items
the actual
than
structure.
the house, but I don't want to put younger than my time frame.
Right. Well, you can do anything you want.
That's true. It's my life. I can live it the way I want.
You can do whatever you want, but typically people establish a date in the house, and that's what they stick to.
Well, and clearly I want the state-of-the-art electricity, because we have the electric light bulb, and
you have the auxiliary piece in the corner, far left.
Well, because the family's rich, they have to show off.
They have more electric light back there. You know, it's Mickey Haynes did a very nice job with this house.
She did.
The decoration and the restoration.
And I changed quite a bit, but not that much. I left her footprint. So should we move to the entry?
In the entry, we have a very colorful guy. Is he a footman, or is he right off of a horse?
Well,
I think of an equestrian, but
I have decided in my story that he is going to be the butler that is in a red jacket for this particular event. And then if I have a mood swing, he can become, he can get a horse. But for now, he's the butler. So he's greeting people, the doors are wide open.
And we have to point out the fact that there's some beautiful ormolu pieces that were included in the decoration here. The gold finished pieces, including this little bay. That is what's great about this house. It has these little bays that are fun to decorate. There's a Earhart and Son ormolu table and chair in the bay. And I'm always amazed by the pieces from Earhart and Son, the quality.
It's unending, isn't it?
Well, the assortment and the quality is just spectacular. The stick stand that you can see, the bird cage that's made with fine wire, gilded wire, with a little wax bird.
Those are fun to collect.
Just oh my gosh, I want every last one of them.
So can you tell our audience, how is this ormolu furniture made?
Well, we call it ormolu. It's like the term that collectors use, but ormolu is a French finish, basically, on bronze or whatever, and it's just gold that's, I believe, mixed with gold, real gold that's mixed with mercury, and then into a paste, and then brushed onto a base metal, and then it's put in a furnace, and the mercury cooks off, leaving just the gold. I'm not sure exactly if it's burnished or polished afterward, but I don't think it necessarily has to be. Various qualities of ormolu. These pieces are stamped. I'm sure they're machine stamped out. Some pieces, like the tabletop. When you have a lot of Earhart and Son pieces, it's interesting to see how certain components were used in very ingenious ways. Like this tabletop, which is covered, is also a tray for a tea service. They just added handles on each side, and it became a tray.
It's just like dressmaking.
Yeah, and like the stick stand in the entry, that top piece where the sticks go is actually also used on a cruet set. Yes, on a dining table, you'd have a different base, and it became what you put the glass bottles in. So, very clever.
Well,
and I could collect every last piece in the Earhart and Son reproduction catalog.
You pretty much have.
Well, I'm trying. And I have threatened in the past to do a program on just Earhart and Son ormolu for a World Doll Day celebration, and eventually I'll keep my word.
Yes, people can remind you of that.
Okay.
So before we go upstairs, I want to show you this little bay here, which I love. This little, now this is smaller scale desk, and I think that this just gives it a perfect place to showcase it. I have to find some little tiny little desk accessories, but now we should go up to the
very steep stairs.
Steep stairs, and don't you think it's interesting, David, that they made this glorious house, but yet the main staircase looks like it's for the servants?
Yes, it's.
I mean, it's like they dropped the ball.
It's a bit of a letdown, this part, but hey. Yeah. That's the thing about a lot of the German houses from this company, the Moritz Gottschalk company. You don't really even need to furnish some of them. They're just so spectacular on the outside. I mean, a lot of it is lavished on the exterior, and in some cases they don't quite follow through on the interiors. But it's I'm not complaining.
No, it's what it is.
It's what it is. But upstairs you have the landing, which just has a young gentleman and one of them. They haven't updated the landing because there's a gasolier there. That's a gas.
Well, I mean,
it's a gas burning fixture.
The
so they
electricity wasn't dependable.
Right. So at least there, if you are coming down the stairs, you'd have gas as an option if the electricity failed.
And we probably have a little Kessner chest of drawers there, and a little soft metal clock, and then some French candlesticks, and most likely an Earhart and Sohn portrait on the wall. So it's a nice little space. So shall we go to where the action is for the Christmas Eve celebration? And we have I think it's a beautiful salon. Do you approve of what I did there, David?
I do.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, this is the time to say what you don't like.
Well, I'm not sure about one thing, but I'll point that out later.
What is that?
That little piece in the back, the ormolu. That's an Earhart and Sohn piece. It's like a sideboard, I guess.
Well, I
it's
like that. You don't like that?
No, I love it. That's not my issue. I only have one little tiny issue.
Well, go ahead and
tell me.
tell
It's not a big deal. I don't understand why this wall sconce pointing at my fingers in the way is that way. It seems
Well,
to me it should
that's
be.
because that's where to hang it on the wall is.
Is it? It's up.
That's right.
It's like it's upside down.
No,
to me.
that I thought of that, and I knew you would point that out. And that's how you mount it onto the wall.
It just looks like a gas bulb, and it wouldn't flame.
Well, maybe
downward.
we still have gas in the room.
Let's not have an argument.
Why not, Risa?
But no, I like what you did. I think the blue was the blue suite in there already.
That was there.
That's great with the paper, the Christmas tree, of course, you put in.
And I think that we think of furniture in the 19th century as not being comfortable, but they had a tremendous amount of comfortable furniture. It was known as the age of the upholsterer, and I think actually this set is
that
very
looks pretty
comfy.
comfortable, for sure.
And the ferns normally are outside, but because it's Christmas, we brought them in for the winter.
That's a wonderful little French porcelain tea set on the center table too.
It is.
Limoges, most likely.
And then, of course, gelatin.
They're all about cats in this house. I've noticed.
You
we have at
finally
least
figured that
4.
out.
Yeah, we have. I see 4 cats. So
This house, they are cat people. There are no.
those are little
There are no
terracotta
dogs.
cats. Actually, I believe they're French, but I'm not.
I think that they are French. And then we have the, gelatin was such a huge part of cooking in the 19th century. So we have our gelatin mold, which is an incredible art form. I recommend going onto YouTube and watching. There's a lot of demonstrations of all the things that they did with the gelatin aspect, I guess they call it. And then, of course, we've got our pork products.
I'm
in
just
the back.
thinking here. I'm noticing because I was just admiring the outside of the house, and we have these chimney pots on both sides of the exterior, but there's no fireplaces inside.
No.
You don't always find, unlike the English dolls' houses, like the Silver and Fleming box backs, they're all about the fire. Each room is about the fireplace, typically symmetrically placed on the back wall of each room. Here, I think you would use most likely a Marklean, beautiful metal fireplace as a freestanding piece if you wanted to have a fireplace. Because it's very unusual to see fireplaces built into these Gottschalk houses.
Well, I tried 3 fireplaces in the house.
I'm thinking about Santa. Now, how is Santa going to get into this house? He's going to have to walk through the front door and get past that.
Well,
that red-coated.
He can figure it out.
All right.
But
He's a professional.
and what makes you don't think that there aren't rooms over that way in the imaginary house?
Well, I don't see a doorway.
So I tried.
literally-
Fireplaces,
literal-minded
but
people.
I thought it needed that pop of gold in the
I
back.
love it. So, yeah, I'm not going to worry about
Okay.
Santa.
Well,
He'll
he'll
break a window
make
if he
it.
had to.
So the next room I think we should visit is.
I think it's
as
the
big-
last room.
It's the last room. I mean,
Except for the attic.
This is a large house, but it's a 1-bedroom, no bath house. So
What makes you think there isn't a bathroom on the other side of that
that's
wall?
true, behind that screen. But we do have chamber pots, so
So
we've got some.
we might be doing the outhouses here.
And at first, I was going to remove this cherry-stained furniture because it wasn't doing it for me. But as I spent more time with
And
it,
it's actually, it could be of the area. I was thinking it was a little newer than the house, but I think it's of the era.
It's
Art
of
Nouveau.
the era. Mm-hmm.
It has some Art Nouveau lines on the footboard, and Art Nouveau is probably 1890 and
started in the 1880s in Europe.
Yeah, later in America.
So I decided that I thought we could represent it, and I'm actually enjoying it. And in the bedroom, we have actually 3 cats, because you've got one big one here on the suitcase, one on the bed, and
and there's one a newborn in a cradle.
Yeah. But one of my favorite items in the bedroom is actually the folding screen, and which is here. And then I also think that this set of clothes brushes on the wall is just fantastic.
Was that in there, or did you add it?
That was in there.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
I thought
That's an
that's
original,
fantastic.
original addition from Mickey then.
And this is actually quite exceptional too. I don't think it's particularly old, but I wouldn't be doing the needlepoint work on this rug. Someone did an amazing job on the needlepoint. But I think it's a very nice room. This one fixture I will change ultimately when I find something different. And maybe these 2 pieces, don't you agree, David?
Are they like tankards?
Tankards.
You know, see, because we're pretty easygoing about houses. I mean, for the most part, I would just take some lovely gold paint and paint those gold.
Well, then it would work, and then I would keep them.
You could always take it off later. You just use some acetone or something if you don't like it. But I think it would be rich, a nice, rich dimension to the room.
But we've got all the beautiful light fixtures, and we could use a nice kitchen light.
We need something, a banquet lamp in the kitchen.
Yeah.
We might have one. I have to go.
But
dig.
you don't want to. I don't want to be finished with this. That
No,
takes the fun out of it.
dollhouses are really never finished.
No, I don't want
There's
to be
always room
finished.
for one more thing.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
like we could use another chair or something beside the desk, or I guess even a person. We could have a dollhouse doll standing there.
Or some more cats.
Yeah, absolutely. We probably.
And then we had a whole discussion with Samantha, who's a cat person. Did they have litter boxes? And they really
Doubtful.
did. They didn't, because the cats were meant to be pets, but also to be working. So
Right.
they would have kept the mice out of.
Rodent-free.
Although ours all have little pretty blue bows on them, but I think they were meant to also work. So no dogs allowed. This is cats only zone. So
I think it looks pretty darn.
visited
You did
Germany.
a good job. You did a good job.
did
And
it.
we have. Where are we going next? I think we have 2 more countries to visit.
I think
don't
we're
we?
going to go to Spain.
Spain.
So we're going to
Okay.
leave the 19th
I better
century,
get my passport ready.
and we are going to go back to the 18th century.
Oh, I really need my passport for that. Okay.
All
great.
right, we'll be back. So we've left Germany, and we've left the 19th century, and we have gone back.
And you look pretty good.
Well, hey, I do the best I can. And
You
so,
look younger somehow. About 100 years, maybe.
so we're going to go.
Look what I got you for Christmas. Would you like to open it?
Well, it actually is not that appealing when you see it like this. It looks like a big
It could be anything.
red box.
It really could be. It could be a safe. It could be filled with dynamite.
It could be a hat box.
It looks.
It could be a lot of
It
things.
could be a travel trunk on its end, but it's kind of.
I think what it really is it's a Christmas miracle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that what we're seeing on the outside is why the miracle is still here after 300 years
Absolutely,
or so.
it's a safeguard.
All right, so she
Because
shows them.
this box was meant to travel. I think that's important. That's important to its essence. It was built for travel. But the first
Should we talk about
hint.
traveling, why that was important in the 18th
ahead.
century? Well, that if you were of a royal family and you had multiple homes, your furniture would be packed up your servants would be packed up, and everything would move to the next location. So you didn't necessarily have porcelains, china, so
in
everything had to be
every,
mobile.
locale.
And a matter of fact,
Well, I
Leopold
think-
Hure was a transporter of the king's
That's right.
furnitures.
That's right. He was an important gentleman. This is like a twofold reveal,
Okay.
because we're going to open just this first, which will give you a major hint as to what
Okay.
this is. And some of you may be familiar with this piece, but we've had it for many years. It came out of a collection in Barcelona from a dearly departed gentleman friend of ours who offered us this, along with many other dollhouses. Now you know it's a dollhouse.
And I can see here when we have this extra lighting, which we don't normally have, you can see how bright and cheerful that was when it was new.
So this outer board, basically paper-covered board, protects the facade. So in order to open it, we go back, pardon me, this direction. And this actually does lift off. The front will lift off. It's on a pin hinge, so it will lift off, but we don't take any chances. So here we have, pardon me, I'm going to cross in front of you again, the interior of this magic box. And it's a 3-story, basically, townhouse, Spanish townhouse. And here you can see these doors would open.
That would be the...
And you can receive your carriage here, because there is a, or you can be dropped off, and you have an entrance. You also have, I'm not sure if that, on the left, it has a piece of glass, that scored white rectangle. I'm not sure if it's a trough or it's just like an ornamental pool. It might be a fish pond, actually.
It might be a fish pond.
But over here we have a stall for a horse with the apparatus for feeding. The gentleman of the house has a bucket, perhaps filled with water for the horse. And he's an early wax,
18th century.
18th century wax doll. He does reside here.
Well, I always think of him as an old, down on his luck count. And they have been reduced to living in this small little townhouse.
But it's pretty darn luxurious.
Yes.
So from there, we venture up a floor, and you have a dining area. Well, actually, you see guests perhaps would be dropped off here, but also you'll see through on the left is an entrance. It's like the entrance hall. So that is our magical, perhaps front entrance. Through there, you'll see a door. And beyond the table, you see the kitchen outfitted in blue and white paper resembling tile.
And that's a typical Spanish kitchen of the 18th century. And I think we should talk about that. I spent about 4.5 minutes decorating this, because the farther you go back in time for Christmas decorations, the less there is.
Oh,
so it was mostly...
As far as decoration, there's some greenery.
And that's about it.
Yeah,
there wasn't...
very little.
And the main celebration is around food. So we have a...
Wow, look at their lobster they have on their table.
They've got a fabulous lobster, and then a plate of sweetbreads, which are a gland.
What's interesting too is this is largely handmade. The furniture is, what I mean is not necessarily like a factory type situation. These are goose feather quills that make up the chairs. This is just paper. This X-frame stool is paper wrapped around perhaps small little wood dowels, or maybe wire, I'm not sure. But largely just handmade. The kitchen is just paper covered. I mean, the kitchen cabinetry, the screen is handmade from a little scrap of brocade and metal braid.
And we have wallpaper, and we also have original art. which wallpaper would be something that only really wealthy people would have. And then, David, you didn't point out that here in this little sitting room,
it's almost like a nursery.
We've got a quill chair made out of bird feathers.
Another tiny bird feather.
And then a beautiful trunk with all the
trunk
gold
is
work.
Fantastic. I'm going to grab it. Actually.
Grab that. 'Cause
it really is amazing with embroidered metal threads.
And that's probably where the Countess's
it's a jewel.
Wedding things were.
Just wonderful. That's a great piece for here.
Just
amazing. That can go back. And there's a lovely portrait on ivory over the piece. And then in the far back, a very similar in construction bed. So maybe not a nursery, just a guest bedroom, perhaps.
For a small person.
Yeah, a visitor.
So now we're in the upper floor salon and sleeping area. And here we just have some incredibly vibrant wall coverings, the amazing blue, and of course the green, which these were very desirable colors in the 18th century. We think of the 18th century as pale and pastel, but that's not the case. They used bright colors, and particularly in Spain, which they had no problem with the gold and the bright colors. And here we have the Countess, and before we received this house, it was stripped of, I believe, the religious artifacts. So she borrowed the crucifix from Casa Paloma, which is actually about the same date as her, to have for the celebratory Christmas Eve. And David, did you know?
It looks like the table is set for an evening repast with an eel and some other little sliced meats, and it looks like pickles on top that have maybe become a little pale over time. But this is such a luxurious room, the silk-covered giltwood chairs, and it's just amazing to me that just beyond here, you have these little carton, these are cardboard, these little doors that slide. This one is already open. And inside is the most incredible little giltwood four-poster bed covered with luxurious silk as well.
And there's no way to get that out.
Very harmonious palette. Yeah, I don't know how that got in there. I mean, it's just amazing. Just a rich room, a beautiful chandelier. And I love also on the walls, we have these little giltwood sconces with seashells, like treasured artifacts from a trip. Just a wonderful room overall, and original art over the console. There's a portrait there.
But the portrait is older than the house.
A 17th century
Yes,
portrait.
and it's a pair, so there's two.
And I don't know if this, did you put this fine basket on the console that's here?
I did.
Can I point that?
I did.
That is woven, isn't it? Oh my gosh, it's just amazing that somebody could weave that and then fill it with little straw flowers. It's just a miracle, adding to the miracle of this house in general.
Well, it's a Christmas miracle, isn't it? That
is,
it's still here after
just a jewel.
a couple of centuries.
Well, is there anything else we need to discuss about this, or are we going back home to America?
Well, I mean, it is, the one thing I would like to say is that there really aren't, in this world, in museums and private collections, there aren't that many 18th century houses.
No.
There just really aren't, when you consider that.
Well, perhaps more English ones.
English ones, but even English ones, there aren't that many compared to the industrialization of the 19th century and early 20th century.
Right. No, we're honored to take good care of it while it's in our possession.
And I think that I added the food to create the celebratory look and maybe the greens, but I think I'm going to leave those there. This room particularly, not to get out of sequence, but this reminds me so much. In Spitalfield, there is a house museum from the 18th century, and they've set it up really fantastic. And this room feels like it so much.
Well, we'll have to visit next
yeah,
time.
and this one does too. Has the same
that direction.
feeling.
But we're not. This was a nonstop flight, so we're not stopping in England on the way back
All right.
to America.
So we're going to go. We're going to go
Right.
to America next.
I think we're going to New England. I would say.
I think we're going to at least somewhere close to New
I
England.
think so. Well, how was your trip?
My trip was really good.
The food was not so memorable.
Except
but-
that I know you don't need a geography lesson.
Oh no, I misspoke. This isn't New England.
This is not New England.
No, it's
although it looks
mid-Atlantic seaboard.
Yeah,
This mansard roof beauty could be in any. It could be Connecticut. It could be upstate New York. It could be New England.
It could be.
But
It's not.
historically it's not.
It's from Bellevue, Maryland.
Okay.
And it was actually made by a carpenter in Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay.
And what is shocking,
How do you know all that?
because I just have my ways,
The psychic,
and what's
the psychic
shocking-
network? Did they?
what's shocking, get ready for this, there were two of them.
Oh.
And they
you're
were
kidding.
two identical houses made for sisters.
Ah,
And
wonderful.
those of you that collect antique doll houses and are of a certain age had to have made a trip to Flora Gill Jacobs Museum in Washington, D.C. And you probably have a library filled with Flora Gill Jacobs books
Washington
on
Dolls
dollhouses.
House Museum.
And this was on the cover of one of her books.
I remember that.
And then
Probably
when-
have it somewhere.
We do. And then when that museum closed its doors, this house was purchased by the Angel's Attic Museum in Santa Monica. And when that closed its doors, it
made its way.
made its way
here.
here. So it's had quite a journey. But I think what's really phenomenal about it is the exterior decoration. This could almost be in San Francisco. It's so,
Could.
be a little squatty.
Early
Yeah.
for San Francisco.
But a little squatty for San Francisco. They're usually taller and skinnier. You don't agree?
No, it could.
It could
have
be,
been.
yeah.
I don't know. Does your psychic tell
So-
you what year it was built?
Well, I believe it said.
Oh, look, you have a photo of
It doesn't give the exact date.
But isn't that great to have?
This is an early 20th century photograph. This dollhouse was used for fundraising. So this was a display in the early part of the last century as a display piece. So we've shown this on tours before, but we've never shown the interior. So we are going to do the Herculean feat, and
I wish we had this. We don't have this.
no, we don't. And we don't have this either, but
No,
we have
but
this.
actually this and this are the same thing. These are just great little I don't think this has anything to do. This doesn't have anything to do with this house.
They're just put there.
They're just great little garden houses, and some clever child thought, oh, that makes a great observatory cupola for this house, so they put it up there. But these two are matching. So.
But isn't it interesting, David, that there's two of them? Because there was two
Oh,
houses.
that's right. There were two houses.
And this is something that I'm going to be on the lookout here. Look what they used a plateau for fruit, and they turned it into a fountain.
Yeah. And you'll notice that there's a Christmas fence around the tree, which was common in the 19th century to put a little fence. And we have a Christmas fence here, but in cast iron. So it's a perfect scale for this little house.
Now, I will say that I have misplaced the front steps. I mean, we have them.
So we have an incredible snowbank.
So we have an incredible snowbank, which actually I think I kind of like.
We'll have a white Christmas.
That's
with all
right.
That snow.
So we are going to, David and I are going to move this piece of furniture around.
This, like many American dolls houses, opens on the back. So it's a little more, it's a little trickier to
it's
display.
It's not a problem, except it's on a counter.
Right.
And,
if we had it on a
turntable
revolving thing, that would be great. But
all right, we'll be back and we'll give you an inside peek. So, David, I have worked on this house for quite a while, and you haven't really you've been busy with your own projects, so you haven't had a looky-peeky. So now is the moment of truth.
It's the moment of
It is the
judgment.
moment
Can
of judgment.
you handle it?
Can you handle
I'll be kind. It's
Okay.
Christmas Eve.
Okay. So have a look. Do you see?
Fun.
Do you
Fun,
see
fun.
one major difference? I want to figure out if you can
Major
figure it out.
difference from
what it was.
it was empty.
It was empty. That's the big difference.
Major difference. Well, it has draperies.
That's it. The
Yeah,
house
it didn't
was
have draperies before.
the wallpaper is the same in every room, which is kind of very utilitarian and extremely beige. And I could not handle just beige, so we decided to do. We didn't remove the original drapes. We just put
They
another
were just
layer
lace before.
on.
Underneath.
Yeah, they were all
Oh,
lace.
That's great.
So we just put a curtain on top. We actually used our own silk from our boutique because
I
it's
recognize.
the perfect weight and
It's a
great
silk
colors.
taffeta. Beautiful color. Has a little iridescence.
Now Floragil.
Oh, this room looks beautiful. Look at that. The with draperies in here are great. You picked up some of the colors in the flowers and the bowl of red fruit. Looks beautiful. Great job.
I mean, Flora didn't. Her decorating style was a little different than ours, and I have always wanted to use this. This is called a Turkish chair, Turkish furniture, which was so comfortable and cozy, and I've always wanted to use that. So we used it in this house.
Yeah, I think you went shopping on our website.
I did.
Obviously, because yeah.
You can take it out of my Christmas bonus. And then what was interesting is the light fixtures, which I'm very happy. The light fixtures were all in the Gottschalk house, and I didn't think they looked good in that house. So I just
You mean
moved them
the
over.
huge one that we shared?
I just moved them all over here, which I think that they're
think-
perfect for
yeah,
this house.
I haven't looked at all of them. But yeah, I think good move.
So I used a nice Biedermeier sofa with original floral upholstery on it, and a nice little piano, which are sometimes problematic to place. And look here, David, here's one of your
My
treasured
ormolu
pieces.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's actually a champagne bucket.
Well, I'm using
It's
it
marketed as a champagne bucket.
but I'm
the
using it as a
wastebasket is
wastebasket.
actually filigree, and you can see through it. But that's okay.
well, in my world, it's a waste.
In my world, it's a it should have a bottle of
that's some
champagne cooling.
expensive trash.
Yeah, and the candlesticks on the bureau are also Ormolu Earhart and Sohn Company.
Yeah, I'd like a little bit better clock, but I think for scale
Yeah, I don't
wise,
think
that's
the
pretty.
clock is very old, but
Yeah.
it's charming.
It works.
Yeah, it's a nice little piece.
And then
And it's all about, obviously, display, because it's facing the camera when it would not be displayed like that.
well, that's what we
normally.
do. So
Yes.
we have to make it work.
There.
And then
I fixed it.
we'll go into the hall, which I think is hysterical because if you lived in this house, you're going to fall down and die because
Those are steep.
those are steep stairs, and I'm slightly suspicious that the staircase is not original to the house, and there may not have been a staircase. But I didn't
At
totally
all.
investigate.
I love how they use the paisley shawl, the wool. It's cashmere paisley shawl as carpeting. They just,
and there was wall-to-wall carpeting in the 19th century.
but it's lovely.
So Eddie did the decoration of the holiday decorations of the house, and so this tree has the American flags, and he made all those bows for us. And then these are little old packages. And I've never, if we move on to the bedroom, I love tiny toy furniture, even though it's a little bit late for the house. But this is some custom pieces in the chinoiserie taste. And I just couldn't resist putting American furniture in an American house.
Well, it's your life.
That's right. That's right. And so it's a very nice.
And these bamboo pieces, this is an artist piece. So this is a real mix. I mean, this is not historically accurate, obviously, to the The
well, as far
furnishings
as
aren't all
age-wise,
antique.
but
yeah.
but
But
stylistically, that's
it's about a little late for the house, but it's
1910.
yeah. But it's I love. I mean, it's the charming artist piece. It really is. And ormolu.
And then you've got your
candlestick,
ormolu,
chamber stick.
And again, this is another. I mean, we are not against the dogs, but this is another kitty house here.
Oh, there's 3 of those Turkish chairs. So
There's 3 of them.
The leftover ones in there.
And then I think we're going to go down to the kitchen. The kitchen actually, I didn't. It's got wonderful drapes, which are dotted Swiss, with a nice trim. And
So this was obviously the kitchen originally
yes.
because it doesn't have wallpaper.
No.
And the floor is different.
Well,
So
it
this
has
was,
wallpaper on one wall.
Oh, well, I'm over here. So.
Yeah.
But it was designated the kitchen because
Yes.
of the tile floor.
And tile floors, and so we put a nice stove, which is actually really a candy box stove, which worked out really good because it's the perfect scale for what we needed. And that's over here. We can turn a little bit. And this piece, I've always wanted to use this, and I think it's a scream.
It's actually arts and crafts era.
But it's a scream. It's just so simple. It's got a mop and an apron
beautifully
and a
cast
feather
hooks on it.
duster, and it's right.
And the curtains in the kitchen were original, though.
Yes, those are original.
Or
very
been
old.
there a long time. Yeah, it's very sweet. You did a nice job.
And then I moved we'll move into the entry, and again I do like to sometimes take a group of furniture and kind of spread it out around the house because they would be buying it in groups and using it. So this is tiny toy, a card table, drop leaf, and then I used
it's a games table or dining table, maybe.
And then I used the other pieces that went with the parlor suite for the entry, and actually it was challenging to find things that just fit right with. And then I've always wanted to use this, so it's a one of a kind medallion painted on porcelain. So that was nice to be able to use it. But I wanted to pop a color because the beige is just beige.
Right.
It's, it's beige and it's in really, really good condition, which, I would be tempted to give the house a little color, but it's the original papers, or at least very, very old. Shall we move to the dining room where the action is? That's the final room.
Looks like a birthday cake on the table.
It is.
It's got candles. I guess are they celebrating baby Jesus' birthday?
Well, a lot of people have birthdays around Christmas, so why not?
That's true. So, yeah.
I have a lot of friends that have birthdays around this time of the year. So we've got a nice birthday cake that I believe was from our place in, the one that used to be amusement park.
Mott's Miniature?
Mott's. I think that's a Mott's miniature cake.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, Mott's Miniatures from Southern California. They were at Knott's Berry Farm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyways, I think that the dining room turned out very nice, and I'm happy with it. The question is, are you happy with this?
Yeah, I am. I think it's, as I said, it's not like period authentic, but, it works very well together. It's charming and fun and
well, it's kind of like, it's a little bit like our house where we had a friend come over and asked us one day,
why doesn't your furniture match?
Yeah, why doesn't your furniture match?
To each his own.
And
no, I think you did a great job. I'm blocking it, probably, your view, but no, I think it looks great.
Well,
nice.
Everybody's out because
the draperies really help. They really do add brilliance and a great dimension. So, yeah, I think our staff upstairs took an afternoon to...
And they did it very quickly and easily,
and installed them too. So that was great.
And I will tell you what we used for these. All we used were
looks like skewers and cup hooks.
Skewers that were, and it worked perfect. And we just used a wire cutter to cut them into place and just popped them in front of the drapes. So it worked out really, really nice.
Great job.
I'm going to enjoy this house. And
Yeah, I don't think we can have much luck with the attic, though. I mean,
Well,
there's not much headroom here. Actually, this comes off, but I wonder why they didn't take that.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
We'll never
But
know.
Doesn't it? As I was working, I spent a lot of time with this house. Doesn't the inner part of it look slightly like a box back house? Because it seems like it's a box inside.
I suppose. I mean, the rooms are all like a box back. They're all the same size, you know. They're just
And
no
it looks
fireplaces.
here, we can see here, it looks like the floors almost, well, I guess in order to close it, it has to be able to do that, doesn't it?
Well, I don't know.
I'm no engineer,
Well,
so I'll
it's
let
fine.
you
It,
figure that out.
good job. Looks great. It's nice to see some life in it because it has been empty for.
Well, when they sold
Years.
it originally at Flora Gills, they sold the furniture off. So the ladies at Angel's Attic didn't have it
I
furnished
don't
either.
remember.
No.
But yeah. Well,
So
it's all about the front, basically.
Yes.
And I recall it was displayed against the wall, so if it had been furnished, it would have been. You could look through the windows, but you wouldn't have really seen the furnishings. So.
Well, friends, we wish you a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas each
and a
every
Happy New
one.
Year.
Thank you for spending a few minutes with us tonight.
Bye-bye. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification button.